Be on your best behavior, Brian.
All right, should have cleaned my office.
You're going to be a YouTube sensation before long.
I know, man.
Tom, I'm impressed you're driving.
Well, truth be known, Liam is in the other office co-hosting, but so far so good. Training wheels will be off soon.
We're all set on YouTube, Tom.
All right. So is everyone, yeah. So I think, all right. I think we're all present and accounted for. Is everyone working okay with their Zoom connection?
Unfortunately, I can only see me. But I don't think that should hold anything up.
I'm afraid I think I have YouTube going on in the background. Hold on one second. One second. Hey, Liam. Okay, without further ado, I think we're all present and accounted for. I've got all the technical glitches taken care of, I think. So first, I want to welcome you all here. Let me start by introducing myself. I'm Tom Hall, the town manager. And I guess for the purpose of this first meeting, I'll serve to help facilitate to get things started. First and foremost, thank you for your willingness to serve. I believe we had about 28 very qualified town residents who expressed interest. So you are a select group from, we're really just amazed by the quality and the quantity of folks that wanted to serve on this committee. So very much appreciate your time. And really, since I guess I was largely responsible for insisting that we have this discussion, this process, it's only fitting that I will serve you and support you through your the next several months as we work through this process. There are a total of 9 at-large residents as part of this committee. We also have 4 other non-voting members. You have Councillors John Anderson and John Clucci, who both serve on the town council and will be active participants but are non-voting. And we do have representatives from the Downs team, Rocky Risbera. Wave your hand, Rocky. And Dan Bacon. And then myself and staff resources will kind of come and go. I'll be a constant for you, but we really serve to support you. I'll say just a reminder to the 2 Johns and maybe Rocky and Dan, we'll have to resist our temptation to really be overpowering in this conversation. I really want to make sure this committee is able to do its work and we serve to support them. I suspect it will be a open collaborative process, and I don't expect there'll be, firm decisions until later on in the process. So I think and hope it will be kind of free-flowing in an open discussion right along. Before we get started, perhaps I'll give you just from my perspective, kind of the genesis of this process of this committee. As some of you may be aware, the town has forged a really important relationship with the Downs development team. This is a legal document and a financial document that really is designed to assure success, kind of toward mutual goals. And that's in the form of what's called a credit enhancement agreement. There is tremendous detail associated with that document and that relationship. And what we found in the course of negotiating those terms is there were a number of things we frankly didn't know enough about to have a realistic discussion, much less make long-term decisions on. And so we kind of put those off to the side in a so-called parking lot. And there are kind of three different processes that the credit enhancement agreement provides for. The first one is a discussion around the town's involvement in a community center. That process has begun and is kind of fairly far along, but it's not yet concluded fully. And we'll talk about that in more detail undoubtedly as we get going. The next process is, in fact, this downtown process that we're just kicking off now. And the third is the discussion with the Board of Education and the school department around the potential siting of a school, perhaps on that property. That's a process that perhaps Sarah can report on at some point if it is relevant. Well, that's kind of where this whole notion started. And the idea was to pull together the expertise and interest in our community to have what hopefully is a collaborative, thoughtful discussion around what are the sorts of things and amenities in a so-called downtown area that we think would be important. So that's kind of the backdrop that brings us together. I did prepare a basic agenda for us to follow tonight, and I'd like to suggest that we have published agendas for the public's purposes, but also just to organize ourselves and keep us on task. I value your time and want to make sure we use it wisely. So I think having a concrete agenda to work from is always a good start in that regard. So as I said earlier, as I have been, I guess I'll facilitate until we get down further into the agenda and perhaps elect a chair, and I'll gladly cede those responsibilities over, but certainly prepared to support you behind the scenes by hosting these meetings and such. So I'd like to suggest that we start by taking a few minutes for each of you to take an opportunity to introduce yourselves. Please feel free to share whatever detail that you think might be of interest to the group. I guess a particular note might be your interest in serving on this committee and any skills or expertise that you think you might bring to the equation. As you're all thinking about possible chairman or chairperson, those details might be important, but I think it's just important for us to get to know each other. So that's really the goal tonight, is to get acquainted and get organized. So I'm just going to look as I see you in my screen here. John Anderson, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Tom. And thank you everybody for applying and agreeing to be a part of this committee. I think it's really, really exciting. You know, we really get the opportunity to partner with the developers to really kind of think about the vision for downtown Scarborough, which, you know, I think we all agree is something that's missing today. And, you know, there's so much opportunity to think big. We're working on our comprehensive plan right now, and there's a lot of cool guiding principles and things in there that I think we can all kind of look to help us think through what this could be. You know, I just was elected in November, so I'm still kind of getting up to speed on everything and how everything works. So I'll be with those of you who haven't really been on a committee before, just trying to, you know, get involved and see what we can do. So I'm really excited to be a part of this with you all.
Great, thanks, John. Art, introduce yourself, please.
Thanks, Tom. Hi, I've been in town for a good 30, 40 years. I've been the president of the Scarborough Chamber of Commerce. I've helped run a couple businesses. I chair the Scarborough Community Services Recreation Advisory Committee for a long time. So I've been active, and especially more so ever since Rocky was able to get the downs.
Great, thank you. Bruce.
Hi, I'm Bruce Civic. We're relatively new to the area. I've been transplanted from DC. I had an architectural firm down there over 30, 35 years, dealing primarily with commercial work, not any residential work. We've been up here about a year and a half. I thought that the thing that I could bring to the table here is, from my architectural background, is that I've worked on larger scale projects in my practice. And then I also come from the Northern Virginia area, which when we first moved down there, my family had moved from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania back in the 1966 circa, and DC was pretty much a bedroom community for Fairfax, Virginia, where we are, which is 20 miles outside of DC, was pretty much a bedroom community. And during that last 50 years, I mean, have witnessed the entire area to grow a ton, you know, from really a really small community and not too much different from, as I see here in Scarborough, to an incredible thriving metropolis. I mean, when we first moved there, Dulles Airport had, I'm not sure if you guys have been into Dulles lately, but Dulles had like about 3 or 4 flights a day at that time. So it's really expanded. So what I think I can bring to the table is some of my experience and observations as I've seen town centers grow in Arlington and then further out into Fairfax, and share with you what I've seen in terms of what I thought worked and what didn't work. And of course, contrasting it with Scarborough as it currently sits with its demographics and economic situation. So that's it. My wife's also an architect, so you really get a twofer here. Although she might not be a part of the meetings, I'll get an earful at dinner. So you'll get almost 2 for 1 here.
Terrific. Thanks for sharing those details. Sarah.
Great, thank you. I'm Sarah Leaton. I grew up in Scarborough. I moved away and then came back about 3 years ago, and then wanted to just get involved in the town and the growth of the town. As Tom alluded to earlier, I am a member of the school board, and sometimes with these committees, we have non-voting school board members on town committees or non-voting town members on school board committees. That is not the case this time. I applied and I'm representing sort of myself, not the school board. But that said, I do have a meeting tonight that I have to hop off to. So I did just want to log on just to introduce myself, and don't let Tom make me the chair, but look forward to working with all of you guys. And I'm sorry I have to jump off.
Duly noted. Thank you, Sarah. Brian Chimway.
I'm Brian Chimway. I've lived in town since 2005. I'm an affordable housing developer, working mostly outside of the state, based in a business, one of the owners of in Portland. Before doing what I do now, I got my graduate degree in urban planning from MIT and in real estate development. And so when this opportunity came up, I was really interested because I thought it was a great opportunity to bring that knowledge and that experience to bear, in my hometown. Having studied what's worked and what hasn't, you don't often get an opportunity to do it right the first time, and so I wanted to be a part of that.
Terrific. Thanks, Brian. John Clucci.
Yeah. Hi. Good evening, everybody. I'm equally as excited to be working with each of you to kick off the downtown committee. I think it's one of the more important things we have going on, and really timely. One of the things with the pandemic is what a great time to reimagine or rethink what a downtown can be or should be. I think we've got a lot of things that we'll be able to probably consider or contemplate that some existing town centers haven't been able to do. So I'm excited to see what you guys come up with. I'm on the town council. Just started my second term there. I run a small business in Old Orchard Beach, a motel. And before that, I worked in insurance, mostly focused on analytics and data. So happy to be here.
Should the committee need some spreadsheets and analytics done, John is our guy, I'll tell you. Thanks, John.
Okay. John, do you live on Wildwood?
I live right across the street.
Oh, okay. So you're my neighbor.
You signed my papers. Yeah.
Okay, I'd have to.
Let's
see
hope you don't
face.
regret
You're
that,
not
Bruce.
good with names. Okay.
Kim, how are you? Kim Bridgem. You're on mute. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
We can.
Okay. Hey, so I'm Kim Bridgem. I've actually lived in Scarborough all of my adult life. I actually grew up in Rumford, so I moved to the metropolis of Scarborough when I went to college. So I've lived here since 1986, except for 2 years that I lived in Belgium. My 2 boys grew up through the Scarborough school systems, and I currently work for one of the companies owned by Ahold Delhaize, which also owns Hannaford. Worked for them for a lot of my adult life. Actually worked with Brian for 6 years, so I actually have a bit of a passion for housing and development as well. it's interesting. Like, I'm super excited about doing this. I think, you know, my interests have spanned from, you know, what a 5-year-old needs to now what maybe, you know, a soon to be retiree needs. So, you know, what they look for in their town for services and for neighborhoods, et cetera. And the experience I had living in Belgium for a couple of years, I mean, Europe is really all about kind of like the village concept. And so I'm pretty excited about, you know, what the Downs and the whole, you know, downtown concept can do for Scarborough. So I'm a finance person. I've worked in finance my entire life. I'm a CPA. But interestingly, my graduate degree is in public policy, and I haven't used that a lot. So I'm like super excited about using some of that over the next several months.
Terrific. Thank you. Rocky.
Going out of order on my screen, Tom.
All right.
Rocky Misbera, part of the Downs development team. I've lived in Scarborough almost my whole life. We came to Scarborough in '68 when it was a town of about 6,000, and have been a big part of its growth over the last 50 years. We built about 20% of the dwelling units in town, and so we're pretty familiar with the town. When the Downs came available, we recognized that there was a real chance here to do something good, not only for ourselves, but for the town and for the state of Maine. And that's why we jumped in and got involved in it. And my partners and I are very committed to our commitment to the town. We're committed to Scarborough, and we're really looking forward to this process. We want some input from the public on, you know, what happens with the development of the town center. And just really looking forward to working with you folks. I think we've got a unique opportunity here that very few towns ever get a chance to envision how they want to develop and what they want their town center to be. And so I think it's exciting, and I'm looking forward to working with you.
Great. Thanks, Rocky. Kimberly.
Hey, everybody. My name is Kimberly Rand, or Kim, whatever. I answer to both. I am a recent transplant from Portland to Scarborough. We moved here last year, and I'm pretty excited about this. I actually live at the Downs right now, and so we were in phase 1 of the development. So it's pretty interesting to watch the whole thing go, and it goes fast. And my experience, I don't have any public policy or even committee experience. I've spent like my entire career either in marketing or in IT. But I have project management experience, people experience, and it's really just kind of more of a passion for me. And, you know, I'm really excited about living in the Downs and taking advantage of the walking and being able to take advantage of the downtown district.
Great. Terrific. Basha.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Basha Muhammad. Basically, I work for IDEX. Since I moved to Maine, that is 2009, I have been living in Scarborough. And actually, John's son, Zach, and my son, Vian, they go to the same class and they have the same teacher. So that's how I recognize John. So I'm basically born and brought up in India, and then I moved to US for my master's. And after I did my master's, I moved to, I was looking for the jobs, and then I worked at Los Angeles for St. Jude Medical. And then I moved to Ride Express, which is called now Vex, and then moved to IDEX. So it's been 10 years since I have been working at IDEX. Basically, my son goes to 8 Corners, and then I'm part of a lot of Indian communities here. We have, even though the Indian community is a little bit smaller, we have a lot of small groups. So I am mostly part of that groups, and then a lot of my friends are there. And then 15 of my friends lives in Downs phase 1 project. So when we meet and we all talk about all of these things, and then when I'm got an opportunity here, I thought this is actually good forum to represent, to bring any ideas. Well, I have more of my experience in software. As Kimberly said, I have a people management, I have a project management experience, and then I have a bunch of people that reports to me at work. So I do not have any real estate or any other background. But what I was thinking is being part of the community, if I'm able to help, and then maybe, part of the bigger development where our ideas or our group or my friends or my neighbors, if I can bring any of the neighbor ideas to this town. And I think Scarborough is in a very unique situation where we do not have any downtown or anything. Since I moved here, nobody recognizes Scarborough as such. Anybody says downtown means they always say Portland, Old Port, or something like that. So when we heard about the Scarborough downtown, it's actually a nice, the feel like, okay, our town is going to be something a little bit different where we can bring a lot of, variety and diversity to our town. And fortunately, the downs came in, and then there were a lot of ideas were floating through. When I looked at the vision document and other places, I thought this might be a good opportunity for me to learn and then maybe contribute and help the community and then the county and then the town.
Terrific. Terrific. Thank you. Tom.
Everybody, my name's Tom Madden. First of all, thank you for having me on the committee. It's been, it's an experience I've never had before, but, and very enthusiastic. It's an opportunity I don't think that anybody really gets that often. So I'm a Maine native. I was born in Saco, born and raised my entire childhood. I went to Thornton Academy, graduated, went down for a finance degree down in Rhode Island. Did a small stint in finance in Boston before moving home after the financial collapse of 2008. Lived in the parents' basement for a little while, but then started a business here in Southern Maine. I've been, my family owned a business in Saco for a number of years, which I helped run, and then founded Lone Pine Brewing Company about 5 years ago. So I'm hoping through this process, the reason I'm here is sort of the perspective that I can provide from sort of a local business owner, maybe helping attract businesses to this area, sort of from that perspective, sort of looking through the lens of, what the Downs can do to maybe, build a robust downtown that can attract some, local small businesses that can sort of put in a foothold in the new development. But also I'm a Scarborough resident now, moved here about a year and a half, 2 years ago. I have a 2-year-old daughter who we'll be raising here in Scarborough. So I'm excited to sort of help chart a course for her and her future here while we sort of map our lives out here in Scarborough. So thanks again.
Terrific.
And hopefully I can be of benefit.
Yeah, I'm sure. And I hope that before this is all done, we can actually get together physically, and perhaps there's some samples that might be shared.
Next time we might have to put them in the mail for you. I know.
All right.
We can get on the other side of this and enjoy a beer together.
I'm a big fan of Lone Pine, just for the record. Travis.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Hi, everybody. I'm Travis. I live in West Scarborough, excuse me, with my wife and our 2 kids who are, my daughter's 5 and my son is 2. And that's the main reason why I wanted to serve on this committee. I think this is a sort of 1 in a million opportunity, like John and Rocky both said, to start from scratch in the 21st century and develop the town that is going to, the identity that we're going to build will exist for multiple generations. And I just am so excited to think about the community that we're going to start building, that my kids are going to grow up in and have memories in and hopefully want to stay. So I don't know why anybody wouldn't want to participate in that. I work for Cumberland County Government as the Director of Public Affairs. I've worked in public policy for most of my whole career. I worked up at the state legislature for about 10 years. After that, I worked for Senator Angus King for 5 years, based here in Cumberland County. And I've worked for Cumberland County government for about 3 years since then. My focus is on policymaking and major projects, regional projects, regional collaboration. So this, this sort of fits in that same wheelhouse of kind of vision planning and what it takes to move communities forward. So I'm thrilled to be here. Glad to see so many familiar faces. And I serve on the board of SETCO as well.
Terrific.
And recently on the Scarborough Education Foundation with Brian.
So though we're a town of 20,000, it's amazing how many connections we have, right? It's encouraging. Dan, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Good evening, everybody. I'm Dan Bacon. I'm the Development Director for the Downs Project, Scarborough Holdings. working with Rocky on executing this exciting project. And I know many of you, so I'm excited to be on this committee with you, and it's great to meet those that I don't. I think we have quite the all-star team here in terms of diversity. So a little bit of background beyond what I'm currently working on, or my role right now is really to work on the planning, the development, the design of the project, and managing the kind of the army of consultants we have working on the various phases of the project. All of it kind of gearing towards this downtown. So I have so much interest in the project, as has been stated already. And a lot of that interest is based on the excitement around the downtown and the unique opportunity that there is. So that's what I'm currently doing and have been for the last 3 or 4 years. But as many of you probably know, my past life, I was involved in the town side with the planning department and working with the town in the planning department and the planning director position. So I kind of have a unique role in terms of this project where I've seen kind of both sides of it, and I'm excited to work with you folks on coming up with a great downtown approach.
Great, thanks, Dan. And Liam, why don't you introduce yourself?
Liam Gallagher. I'm the fairly recently promoted assistant town manager and human resources director for the town. I've been here for about 3 years. Not a resident, but quite a big fan of Scarborough in general.
And assisting me as co-host on this tonight. So, so with that, we get kind of into the meat of the agenda. We can do this next item, which is trying to organize ourselves, kind of the easy way or the hard way. I'd like to start the easy way first, if possible. So you'll see here, we're moving right along to item 3. And we really do need to elect a couple of key positions. One would be a chair. And let me describe what I envision the responsibilities will be. I certainly expect myself and staff to provide full support to the committee and the chair in particular. So I really see the role of the chair being, running the meetings, making sure there's some order. I'll certainly collaborate with that person regarding agenda preparation. In a perfect world, we'd actually set the agenda before we adjourn any meeting. So that's a fairly light lift. And then probably some representation of the body reporting out the results at the end of the process. So that's what I envision there. The secretarial duties, there again, I think staff will provide some good support. We do intend to be recording all of these meetings. And so we have a good record in that regard. So I don't see that as a heavy responsibility, but I think it's important to have someone that's designated with that responsibility. I guess I'll throw the 2 council liaisons kind of into the mix. I suspect the 3 of us can tag team and take on some of the more boring secretarial duties of preparing written minutes and such as the need may arise. So Liam, if you can go back to the stop sharing. So I'd like to suggest first that, is there anyone that wants to put themselves out there? First, let's talk about the chair position. Any volunteers?
I'd be happy to volunteer for chair unless it's something that somebody really wants or has a passion for. I'd be happy to serve as chair.
I'll second that.
Third it.
Who spoke for that position?
Travis Kennedy.
Travis, okay.
Yes, yep. Anyone else have interest? Would you, I think it's appropriate for the group to vote. All those in favor of Travis Kennedy serving as chair of the downtown committee?
Aye.
Aye.
That appears to be unanimous. We'll let the record reflect. Thank you, Travis, for stepping up. I assure you I've got your back. You're not alone on this.
Okay.
We're all in this together, Travis.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for your trust, committee.
That was awfully easy. Let's see how the next one goes. Anyone willing to serve as secretary, at least by name?
Hey, Tom, point of inquiry. The secretary can be a non-voting member. Is that right?
I would say that would be fine.
Great.
You want to make a nomination, Brian, or?
Oh, if one of the counselors might want to be a secretary.
John and John, would you be willing to share those responsibilities with me? And I think between, recording these sessions, we're going to have good records of all proceedings. I don't think it's going to be a very heavy lift.
I think we can cover it.
Yeah.
I'm not happy
with
about it.
I was gonna ask John to do rock, paper, scissors, but it's fine. We can all do it.
We'll rotate.
If we share and rotate, it'll be a lot easier.
Co-secretaries. This is great.
Yeah.
Thanks, Brian. With that, Mr. Chair, I hand over the responsibilities to you. Do you have the agenda handy, or would you like to see it again?
I do. I have it on my screen, Tom. Thank you.
Yep.
So item 4 is establishing the meeting date and time. And I guess, I think we should probably start with some advice from staff. We have about 6 months to complete our duties. And, the amount of meeting time in person that we're going to need to complete that. I guess I wonder, Tom, and also maybe Dan, if you have some insight as to how frequently maybe we should meet. Should we be meeting monthly? Should we be meeting bi-weekly? What's the sense of our scale of work? What's that going to require of us? At least to be meeting together.
Yeah, my sense, I don't have a complete sense of the workload, frankly, but monthly seems too light to me. I would say bi-weekly. The good news is you can always cancel them if need be, or skip one. I think it's important for any group to be successful. You need to arrive on plan it out and have a consistent meeting schedule so we can schedule it out, and that you arrive at a meeting date and time that works for everyone. So that's, I don't want to get
I
ahead.
agree. I think every 2 weeks with the option that you can cancel is a fine schedule.
How does that sound to everybody? Does anybody have different thoughts, or every 2 weeks sounds like a good schedule?
Bi-weekly till it hurts.
Bi-weekly till it hurts. I like it.
No, I think in the beginning it's better to have a couple of 2 weeks duration. Once we have the full agenda and everything, what we have to do, the work is planned out. Then based on that, we can take a call later point of time.
That's a very good point. We can always adjust.
And I might suggest, Travis, as we get into this, there may be committees that you'd like to consider, and those groups can work kind of independently as well. So the full group may not need to meet every 2 weeks, but I think getting them scheduled makes a lot of sense.
Okay, excellent. Timing wise, are evenings ideal for everybody? For just my own personal schedule, as long as it's after 6 o'clock, I can meet any day. So if there are any days that are bad for anybody or preferable for anybody, let's start tossing those out now, and hopefully we can pick I think ideally a regular day at a certain time every 2 weeks. And we'll book it through June, and if we need to adjust or dial back or dial up, we can certainly do that. Does anybody have days that are conflicts, days that are preferences?
I would just say if we could try and avoid Thursdays, because Sarah had to sign off because she's on the school board, and I think they do bi-weekly on Thursdays, and I don't know what their other meetings are, but I think if we could try and avoid that so she can more easily participate, that would be good.
Okay, great, thank you.
Wednesdays can be tough for council. We meet at least the first and third, and very often another Wednesday in the month too. So
I was going to say Mondays are tough because of planning board. So
I
we're
was
narrowing
going to say the same thing, Dan.
the week down pretty good, aren't we?
We're
Right, so
closing
that
in.
means Tuesday, because we're not meeting Friday at 6, I don't think.
I think that's a great idea, Kim. Let's put out there Tuesdays beginning 2 weeks from now. And I think it might not be a bad idea to just do a show of hands. All in favor of Tuesdays starting 2 weeks from now at 6:30? Is this time appropriate? Does this work for everybody?
That works.
6:30? Okay,
terrific. Thank you.
great. And we're on to item number 5, reviewing committee charge. I think I'm going to kick this back to you, Tom.
Yeah, I'm pleased to walk you through it, and we could, at any point interrupt me, we can go into more detail. So Liam's going to share here. The whereas clauses I won't bore you with, but it does provide some background and context So if we scroll right down to the bottom of the first page, the purpose. As I said at the outset, this is really intended to be a collaborative process with the developer. And I'm very pleased to have Rocky and Dan work with both of them very closely, and they've both shown themselves to be very open and collaborative. So I think we're going to achieve that. But in a nutshell, the purpose of the group is really to advise the council regarding the elements and ideally the costs of a downtown district. That's kind of in a nutshell what the goal and purpose of this committee is. And to do that, we've elucidated a couple of details to help guide and add some clarity. So the first one would be to review development plans and the accepted downtown plan. The development team, Dan and Rocky, and I might suggest we start as soon as your next meeting to have them do some presentations of the plans that they already have approved and some of their thoughts on the area that we're really going to focus on. That's probably a pretty good chunk of time. Dan, I suspect an hour and a half might be needed to get through that, but that's really good background information for you to understand kind of the bigger picture and dial in on what we're really going to spend our time talking about. In terms of specific deliverables, the council is interested in some pretty finite detail to the extent we can produce it, which is in the form of some sort of schematic design or conceptual layout, and really focusing on those desired amenities, the different things that we think would be important. It doesn't have to have all the details fleshed out, but kind of a description, and to the extent that we're able, kind of a conceptual layout that looks at relationships of different uses and amenities might be helpful too. And again, Dan, I think we'll go into this in more detail, but they are required to receive master plan approval with each of their components or their phases. And so ideally, the results of this work will help inform what they make submission to the planning board and ultimately get approved. So that will be an important part of the process. And then the other component is, to the extent that we can, and we may need to bring in some outside resources to provide some financial forecasting, really some costs around these sorts of things.
I'm in the meeting.
So those are the specific deliverables. You'll see public involvement is prominently displayed there. This council really strides itself on kind of openness and transparency. We know through the comprehensive plan process that we're currently going through, there's a lot of interest. All of you are here tonight because you're interested in this idea. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of residents, I think, that are interested too. So being mindful of finding ways to involve the public in this process is going to be an important component just to keep at the front of your mind as we move forward. The membership we can gloss over. I did notice that I think I provided you, I didn't update this entirely, but there are 9 residents, 2 developers reps, and 2 members of the council as non-voting members. Some of the details below that, I don't think I updated. So as Travis mentioned, we have about 6 months to complete our work. The council, I think, will certainly entertain extensions of that. The timeframe really has more to do with the down schedule. They are moving quite swiftly. If anyone's been through there lately, they are working themselves to the middle. And so our timing is really perfect. And we wanted to have this conversation and give ourselves enough time to have it and inform them as, you know, and kind of keep them on the pace that they're at, which is a fairly aggressive one. So Dan and Rocky, I'm sure, will chime in more about what their expectations are, but I think we're starting this at the right time, and I'm quite confident we'll have enough time to do a thorough job. As I said earlier, we've got all the resources of the town staff available to us as needs arise between the town engineer, our planning director, our assistant manager as may be needed. And I think the school resources would be available too if we find ourselves in that need as well. Consulting support, we do recognize, you know, on this conceptual design, but also the financial forecasting, but also on kind of the visioning. This is not something that I'm an expert in whatsoever. I I've got some ideas, but we may well find ourselves needing some expert support to help in the initial visioning and maybe some of the more detailed analysis as well, design and financial forecasting. And I guess just the last thing, just this, the rest of it, I think really is kind of housekeeping materials, but it really suggests how important it is that we stay organized, consistently publish agendas and minutes, again, to the point of transparency and openness. And until further notice, we'll be meeting remotely. I know that's not ideal, but I'm very pleased that everyone was able to get connected, good audio and video from all of you. So until further notice, we'll stay on these terms. I'm hopeful that we all get in a position of being vaccinated and we may be able to find ourselves together face to face one day, but time will tell. So that was a very quick overview. I suspect you've all taken a moment to look through it yourselves. Mr. Chairman, I suggest that we could pause there and have some conversation around any part of that. Anyone have any questions?
Sorry about that. Yeah, same question. Does anybody have questions for Tom, observations, any discussion on the committee?
I'm not sure. I guess with everything just sort of laid out here and who we are and sort of what we're charged with, do we have a target in mind for our next meeting?
In terms of agenda?
Yeah. I mean, is there some thinking about?
That's the next item on our current agenda is planning the next one. So before we get there, is there any further discussion or questions on the committee charge?
Yeah, Travis, just one question for Tom.
Mm-hmm.
Tom, in the purpose, you talk about reviewing the elements and costs of the downtown district. And in the text, it then kind of goes on to talk about reviewing and revising the master plan and the CEA. Can we just be clear that that's not part of our scope and that's intended to be someone else's scope, or is that going to be part of the scope of what this committee does? I guess the review of the CEA and the master plan.
Well, I guess that is the background purpose. I think that's your distinction is well taken in that that's not necessarily the goal, all the responsibility of this committee. John and John, particularly John Clucci, I wonder if you could save me here a bit. Keep in mind, this was wordsmithed by there were 8 different authors, and so forgive me if it's a bit disjointed, but that's the product sometime of many hands.
That's exactly what I was going to say, Tom. I wish it read more cleanly, but it was labor. It was painful actually to get 8 of us to agree with the specific wording. But I think the intent here was that you're going to review the components of the downtown and the cost so that we can make potential adjustments to the CEA or the master plan for the downs.
So the town council could do that.
Correct.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Terrific. That helps to narrow things and really keep us focused.
And similarly, the master plan would be submitted by the developer and approved by the planning board. So you're right, it's suggesting things that are beyond the scope and abilities of this committee, but they're related for sure.
And then, Tom, just one other only question. As I read this, I kind of infer that we will be starting with Rocky and Dan's kind of ideas as a baseline rather than this group coming to the table with its own set of ideas to use as a baseline. So we're not painting on the canvas first. We're reviewing what's on the canvas and kind of responding and potentially suggesting amendments to it. Is that right?
Yeah, and frankly, they can certainly speak up here. I'm not aware how far they're along, but I think they do have some ideas. I think it would make sense for us to hear from them. But I don't think you're necessarily limited to, to that list, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can quickly speak to it, and I think the next agenda item, we'll get into more detail. Thinking about, your first meeting after this one is really to orient you to the project in general, and then orient you to the area of the Downs that we've been envisioning, kind of the town center or downtown. And we have done some work on that, but certainly not extensive work on that. So the canvas is been kind of set, and it's not entirely blank, but there's a lot of room for guidance by this committee to kind of take it to the next step. So I think some of the material that we sent along to you prior to the holidays helps paint that picture for you. So I believe you all received our master plan that shows the general location of where we envision the center to be. And also one of our approved master plans is a thicker document. Plan development approval starts to get into the town center area. We're calling it Town Center North. It's not the entire kind of area that we're envisioning to be the downtown, but it has a component of it. And it includes a start of some ideas around the Main Street that we reviewed with the planning board at a conceptual level, but it kind of ended at that level. So we're kind of pleased when the committee thinks it's appropriate to get into those details at your next meeting, if that's what's decided, to go over all those elements.
So using the painting analogy, which I think is apt, it's perhaps sketching in pencil now, not yet in ink or pen, right? So there's some initial thinking, but nothing finalized. And Dan, incidentally, roughly what is the acreage of the area that's shown on this plan?
I'd say that is 25 acres in that range.
Okay.
Rocky, you think I'm in at least the right church on that?
Yeah, I was gonna, just for clarification, I mean, the entire Downs that you see in the lighter green color is 525 acres. And then the black outlined area is right around 20 to 25 acres, kind of right in the center of the Downs, which ironically is the geographic center of the town.
So Dan, that cluster of pink buildings that are defined as planned buildings, are those actual planned buildings to scale, or is that just conceptual for the kind of western side of downtown? Are those buildings planned already, or is it planned in the non-literal sense?
It's conceptual, Travis. It's giving you the sense of the type of the dimensions of buildings that would make sense potentially in a main street, but they're certainly not planned, and there's a lot of work to be done on the details. So that's just the general vicinity of what we see as the downtown and the general pattern. I'd call it more of a pattern. And I mean, one building in particular that you see there, it's L-shaped, has been planned as the Edge Sports Facility. You can see some rec fields behind it. So, out of those buildings, that's the one that's had the most thought prior to the pandemic, because programmatically that was what the community center discussion was about. And so that one, maybe out of all of them, has the most work that's been put towards it and forethought.
So Mr. Chairman, I might suggest when we get to the next agenda item, this is exactly the sorts of things that you might want to jump into at your next meeting.
Right. Is there any other comment or questions that we get here from talking about the committee charge, about the committee charge that we just reviewed before we move on to agenda setting? John?
The only other comment I'd add is that, and this is a little confusing, but our downtown is actually bigger than this specific area that you're looking at right now, right? We consider it to include Oak Hill and the municipal campus and the Downs property. So I guess I don't lose track of that, right? So it's not all, the whole downtown isn't going to be in these 4 acres. We want to understand, how do you get from Oak Hill to here? Or are there complementary uses or facets that we can put here that we're missing in our existing downtown? So I just it doesn't
Excellent.
jump out at you in the charge, but that's considered in scope here as well.
Yeah, excellent point. In this first bullet under deliverables, you'll notice a reference to a downtown district. The downtown district is actually encompasses about 1,000 acres in total. So it's the entire Downs property, and we're starting to mix a couple of different things, but we'll spend some time at the next meeting to kind of ground you on these. But John's exactly right that we shouldn't be looking at these 20 or 25 acres in a vacuum. We should be considering them, you know, in and of themselves, but also how they relate to everything else within the Downs property, and also, you know, where I'm sitting here in Oak Hill.
I've got another question regarding what we're doing here. You know, we were talking about public involvement and keeping the public in the loop. What's sort of the mechanism for that? I mean, is there somebody that's going to let us know what to do when? I mean, how are we going to approach that?
Well, at the very least, as a matter of routine, these are public open meetings, so we could have members of the public attend our meetings, and every agenda will have a public comment component. So you'll satisfy it in that simple regard. Beyond that,
there's no formalized getting in touch with the public, asking them for input or anything like that.
There could be. I think it's wide open. We could potentially do some survey if you think that would be helpful. If you get to the point of having some conceptual ideas you want to test out in the community, we could do that. I think you'll know it when you get there that you want to do a little testing. So I think it's really what you want to make of it. The council just wanted to make sure and really punctuate the point that that's an important component. So at the end of this, there's some buy-in.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Travis, one more final question. To the point that John just brought up, does our scope include ideas and elements of potential development that the Downs group will not be developing? Or are we really here to talk about elements that will be part of the development of Scarborough Downs? Yeah, to the point that you made that the downtown district is larger than the Downs.
I think it's both. I think Rocky and Dan would love to have direct input, you know, to inform their master plan. But I think all of the other elements are also available to you. You know, whether it's sidewalk connectivity and maybe transit connections. I don't know what those things might be, but I think you have the ability to expand beyond that. I think the council's really looking for that bigger picture.
Okay. Leaton, do you have a comment, or? Thank you, I'm on mute.
Yeah. Just a quick note, the town council's communications committee will be, has on their agenda for Monday, some conversation about what a communications plan might look like for both this ad hoc committee as well as the charter review and comprehensive plan. So I know there will be some discussions at that level about what maybe some expectations might be for reporting out on developments and updates.
Right.
Liam, you want to stop sharing screen just so we can see each other? Thank you.
And then just Tom, one kind of clarification within the charge. Can you just
on my count, that's the fifth clarification you're seeking.
The fifth final one. This is the real final one. Are there actually 9 voting members or not 7?
Correct. There are 9.
Okay.
And a quorum is 5, not 4.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
If I can, one question on the charge too. Just in the general scope of the project, it's a 6-month project. Are we essentially advising throughout that 6-month period and then we're dissolved after 6 months? Or is this something that's going to be culminating some sort of presentation that we've compiled with recommendations that is going to require organization of that type? Is there some final here, or is this just, you know, our general sort of meeting, giving input and sort of guiding the project through that period?
Yeah, I see there's going to be a finality to as the name suggests, ad hoc is kind of single purpose. So I think there is going to be a report out at the end. There may be interim reports if you feel like you get to a point where you'd like to do that or the council asks for it. I think the council would entertain maybe continuation of the committee if there's a reason for it. So I think time will tell in that regard, Tom.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't see any more questions.
Sorry,
Go ahead, Kim.
I have one question. So there are a lot of documents, and they're actually super interesting on the location on the town site that you directed us to, Tom. I'm just wondering, you know, with the agreements between the developer and the town, you know, associated with the TIF and the credit enhancement agreement, are there rules that have already been established or boundaries of what can and cannot be done that we need to be considering as we are using our creative juices?
Well, I mean, the credit enhancement agreement is something that is certainly beyond your realm. That's something that the council and the developer has equal stake in, if you will. That's not it's a bilateral document, so subject to negotiations. I will say, if you read the language, and we can get into this in some detail next time if you like, in each of these future processes, including this one, it does kind of hint at parties may, at the end of the process, choose to get back together and decide whether to amend or to create new relationships, financial relationships. And you know, the notion behind all this is that there may be some things this committee and this community wants that the developer isn't able or capable or willing to do on their own. But we really feel so strongly that it's such an important component or amenity that it really warrants some town investment, public investment, to make it happen. So there's no question that's part of what's contemplated here. But this is really intended to be an open visioning process, and I hope the money doesn't get in the way. We're collecting your input and your vision to really dream big, and then we'll figure out the practicality and the financial viability.
Okay.
So let's talk about our next agenda, which will be 2 weeks from tonight. During his presentation, Tom mentioned that the developers will want to give us a in-depth briefing on the project itself, and I think maybe answer some of the questions that we've been asking so far, and that may take an hour to an hour and a half. That sounds like something that would be important to do very early. Does anybody want to, considering we've set up a pretty significant schedule of meetings, does anybody have any other items that they think are critical for us to talk about at our very next meeting? And I'll offer one thought that I had is what I want us to be able to do early is all of the thoughts that we've been sort of daydreaming about and questions that we have. It would be great if we have an opportunity to just sort of come up with a list of all the things that we either want to learn about or talk about, and collect them all in one place, and not necessarily schedule them over the next upcoming weeks, but at least have a list to begin with of items and issues that are important to us so we don't lose track of them. So those are the two items that I imagine being important to do soon. But I'll open up the floor to anybody who has thoughts or comments about what we ought to be doing 2 weeks from now.
So I have actually sent an email to Tom asking about, I read about the document comprehensive plan or the vision document that's been under discussion. So we probably have some kind of a mapping. If we are working on this one, it should map with the town's vision. Probably that is also something, I don't know if as Tom said, it is still work in progress and discussions are going on. Maybe that is something that where we can have some kind of alignment, because we don't want to go in a road where vision document and comprehensive document is showing some other way and we are going in another way. So there might be some kind of alignment needs to be there. That is also something maybe we can at the high level have some expectations.
Yeah, Basha reached out to me last week on the point of making sure that there's connection with the comprehensive plan. And frankly, the current version of the plan is somewhat silent to this, shockingly. And we've been directed by council to really dedicate some time and attention to the Downs project because it's so significant and prominent. And staff is in the process of writing that as we speak. What they're executing is exactly what our zoning ordinance requires. So I don't anticipate there being huge conflicts or differences between what we're talking about and what the comprehensive plan will kind of vision. But time will tell in that regard. Is that fair, John and John?
Yeah, I think there might be just like a couple, like not the whole comprehensive plan, but just maybe some key areas that might be of interest for people to look at that maybe, Tom, we can give some guidance. Like I know the guiding principles that are in there, I think would be good for this group to just read and see and just make sure that those are similar guiding principles as you guys move forward to kind of think through the visioning. And I think they're pretty comprehensive and they're good. So I don't see any potential conflict, but it's just another way to kind of, ground yourself in the direction the town is going.
My intent, and Liam, perhaps you can pull up that section of the web page that we've created. We've created a spot on our website to really be the repository of documents. So we started to load things up. Will that work for everyone if we just do that and you can grab them as you wish and dig it, dive as deep as you wish, as opposed to sending them out piecemeal? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Good. And again, this is intended to be built out as we move forward, as we produce materials and in minutes and so on and so forth. This will be the place. You'll become quite familiar with this part of the website, I'm sure. Well, good. So Travis, do I hear a developer presentation? Again, I think that's going to be a fairly lengthy discussion, particularly with questions.
Yeah. How does everybody feel about focusing on the developer presentation? And I am sure that questions about the comp plan are going to come up. And, again, we're meeting every 2 weeks. So I think that we don't have to try and cram everything in to 3-hour marathon sessions. So short of anybody feeling differently, should we have one item on our agenda for next meeting, aside from public comment? Seeing a lot of yeses.
Yes.
Is there anything else from the town, Tom, that you think we ought to try and
No,
do?
I think getting a good, strong foundation based on this piece is really essential. I think it's really important to do that first. Just as a matter of personal preference, and I guess I should mention this and get your input. I tend to think after about 90 minutes, we don't get so productive. So my philosophy in building agendas is we ought to keep that in mind. You guys are all working full-time jobs and, well, Bruce isn't, but I respect your time. And I think we should be focused and efficient with our time as best we can. Okay. Well, let's use that as a construct going forward. We might run a little over, a little short on certain meetings, but so be it.
Excellent.
Rocky and Dan, are you prepared to present in 2 weeks? Okay.
Yeah, we certainly can be, and I do think it would be time well spent. Dan and I, we forget sometimes. We know so much about the downs, and we forget that other people aren't where we are with the knowledge of what's going on. And I think if we just take a little time, show you what we've done, kind of what's already cast in concrete, and then where we've got a lot of opportunity and kind of blank canvas area, I think you'll find it helpful. And we can certainly be prepared in a couple of weeks to do that.
Yeah, and Rocky, I would suggest that you do start to kind of to put it in context, to really start the big picture and dial in on that centerpiece.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the full story that's really important for people to get a full appreciation on.
Yep. I think we can do that.
So the final item on our agenda is public comment. I assume, Liam, you must have some mechanism if we have members of the public who like to address us tonight, if there's a waiting list or...
We have Karen Martin in attendance. Karen, raise your hand if you'd like to say anything. She is saying something.
Karen, you might have to unmute yourself.
Karen, I think you can speak. Liam, take over control, would you please?
Here we go. I've got it.
All right.
Hi, all. I'm Karen Martin. I'm the Economic Development Director for the Scarborough Economic Development Corporation. So I'm here just to assist like Tom is, and whatever we can do to help, that's what we're here for.
Thank you, Karen. And that's the end of our public comment. So unless anybody has anything else they want to contribute tonight, if anyone has any closing words, now would be the time. Otherwise, I believe we're ready to adjourn for 2 weeks.
I just got a quick question for Rocky or Dan. It's just part of what I do normally at the beginning of a project. I like getting out to the site a little bit. I tried to go out there, I don't know, a week or two ago, but of course there's no trespassing signs because of the construction. Is there any way that I could get onto the site?
Absolutely. I'm happy to. Rocky probably can't host you in the next week, but I'm happy to do a site visit with you, Bruce, or other committee members early in this process. So happy to lead you around and give you a tour.
I know it does. It seems kind of a weird. We all just trained to do that. To always start off looking at the site for whatever information. So
I think it's a great idea. I think it's a great
being
idea.
mindful of both COVID and Dan's time. Maybe it might be
quite
a good
frankly.
idea for,
I appreciate Dan's time. I'd be happy. I've done this before. I can go out and kick around. Is there a construction trailer or something that I can check into, and with maybe some advance notice from you that I could have an hour or two out on the site with whoever you got running the job?
I guess, Bruce, just before you answer that, Dan, my one thought is if there are a bunch of us who would like to visit,
okay.
maybe we could schedule, 1 or 2 or 3 trips, whatever people are comfortable with as far as distancing and what works with Dan's schedule.
So if we can do it as a group, daylight hours are short, so we'd want to, that'd be more of a daytime activity to be successful, but happy to put that together in the next few weeks so that you're not only grounded in the plans, but you're grounded in reality.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, we had the planning board out there recently. We also had the town council out there recently, and I feel like we were able to do it very, very safely from a COVID perspective. It's a lot to walk, frankly. We moved in vehicles to a couple different strategic places, and then talked about those areas. If this committee wanted to, I think it's probably a couple hours really to see it. And Dan's right. You got to see it in daylight, or you're not really gonna learn anything. But I think that would be time well spent if this committee wants to take that time.
Would staff maybe be willing to send out a doodle poll, and we can identify if there are 1 or 2 times that we might be able to get together out there?
Yep. Please do that. And Rocky, the telltale sign that you're in Florida is you get your ceiling fan on. We don't have those on in the winter here.
I'll be back.
Excellent. So we will have follow up on scheduling a site visit. We have an agenda set for 2 weeks from now, which is 1 item. Unless there's any opposition, I think we can move for adjournment for tonight, and I'm looking forward to working with everybody.
Is there a motion?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Art, is that a second?
Second.
Are we okay with waiving for votes, Tom, or should we run the roll call?
I think this is committee work. Expression, however you choose to, is fine. We don't need roll call.
All in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
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 Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.